All right. First off, I'm super excited to chat with my good friend, my business partner, Chad Lamirande here. Very smart guy, and you know, this poor bastard. I'm so sorry, Chad, but he left a very lucrative six-figure career in the banking world, and started in real estate in 2020. So I thought, wow, this is a great conversation that we can have because there's probably some people that are maybe newer in real estate. Maybe they're, just starting to get some momentum in real estate and they're like, man, I've just been hit with this crazy COVID thing. And how do I get through it? So, Chad, why don't I start off? Maybe you could tell people just a little bit about yourself, kind of what you've been doing over the years and what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to February of this year, I was in banking. So I met Jason about 10 years ago. We were both branch managers, different financial institutions, but in the same town. So I'd been a branch manager with one of the big five banks all over sort of the Central Island, spent a little bit of time in Victoria, and just decided that, I was appreciative for the job. I still enjoyed a lot of things about the job, but it definitely wasn't making me feel fulfilled. So I reached out to Jason last summer and just said, hey, can you talk to me about what your transition from banking into real estate was like? It sounded great to me. So I decided that it was something that I wanted to do too. And I'm happy that I did, but unfortunately I didn't time it, I guess, as good as maybe others have.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like we've talked about, this is going to make you a way better agent. A lot of the skills that you're going to be learning early on in your career, some people don't learn in a 10-year career, right? I mean, if you come in at right when the market's taking off and it's going on a nice run, it might be a little different than what you're experiencing, which, like we've talked about, you got to think of this over a 20-year career, a 30-year career in real estate. You're not always going to have the perfect market. In fact, you're going to have a lot of markets where it's a buyer's market or a balanced market. You're going to have a very small percentage of it, which is going to be a seller's market. So let's talk about this. Okay, so you're a brand new agent. January, you made the move and you start with our group. I mean, what were the things that were going through your head in those first weeks?
So, I mean, the biggest thing was, can I make enough money? Because, where I'm at now, I mean, I have a big mortgage. I have a couple of kids and I have a wife. So I was definitely prepared that the first, number of weeks or months or whatever, I may not necessarily see a paycheck, but it was definitely my biggest thought was just, can I do this? Can I make a go of this? And I know for the way that I came in and the conversations that we've had both before and since is, really, really focusing in on the things that I can control is really what made, I'm not gonna say I wasn't nervous or I'm not nervous because I still am. But I'm not as nervous because I feel like I have at least somewhat of a plan. So, I mean, that was the biggest thing going through my mind when I first switched over, and honestly, even still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know there's some people that are listening to this right now that are in the same boat. They're newer agents. They're just getting into the business and they're fearful. They're afraid. They don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty. So let's talk about some of the things that we've been working on together to sort of come up with the right plan and keep you in the right frame of mind so that you can be successful. Because I have zero doubts, Chad, that you're going to be a rock star in this business. And I can appreciate, as far as a scale 1 to 10 goes for timing, we probably were a 1 on the scale of timing as far as when you start, but I actually think it's going to be a competitive advantage to you long-term. So let's talk about some of the things that you've been working on and doing.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just focusing on building my pipeline. That's been my biggest focus. That through the major two things that I've been doing as a way to build that is both calling, so just consistently phoning leads, following up with people who I've talked to or been trying to get in touch with, and socially. Like I know when I first sort of realized that you were in real estate was because I'd seen some of your videos on Facebook, and then hearing from people like you've had webinars with, like Kevin and Georgia, who have definitely leveraged social media. Those are definitely the biggest to focus, and just the activities are consistently doing it. So just consistently calling, and texting and emailing, like using ways to get in touch with people, and then just being consistent in putting out content so that people are aware that this is.
Yeah. So one of the things that Chad and I talked about when I started is I said, Chad, you need to get your list of everybody that you know, every single person that you have a name, phone number, some piece of information for, you need to start creating your list, right? If you worked with them 20 years ago, you went to high school with them 25 years ago, it doesn't matter. Start creating your list of every. Remember, we talked about the importance of doing that. And then we talked about a strategy. It's really important that you start connecting with those people and just checking in on them. You know, what's new and exciting with them. It's been a long time since we've connected, because what happens in that process is they start getting those people to follow you on social media, right? I think you remember us talking about that, but you know, they need to know and see your content that you're putting out there. So getting your list was absolutely vital and critical. The next thing is get connected to a strong database. So luckily for you, I mean, coming in with our group, we've got what, 22,000 leads in our database, and we're constantly spending a lot of money driving direct traffic to our website, which is converting a lot of opportunities. So there's really no lack of things that you can be controlling. So for anybody that's a newer agent right now, that's maybe a little bit worried or panicked,
You know, it's I don't know about anything else, but as far as what to be focused on is just like we've talked a lot about, is the things that we can control. And I know for me, I feel a lot less nervous when I break it down to what can I be doing today, tomorrow, you know, next week, and just focus on those activities as opposed to looking out, you know, in 6 months, where am I going to be at, kind of thing. And so it's just, you know, the consistent behaviors produce consistent results is sort of the mantra that I've carried. But, you know, I think it's just being consistent, being deliberate with the activities, like the calling, like putting out content, to make sure people are aware of what I'm doing now. Those are the things that I'm really focused on a regular basis.
yeah,
To make me just not, it feels like it's not as big of a job to try to grow this business. It feels like a manageable, you know, a manageable piece.
yeah. Well, one of the things we talked about today in our sales meeting with our team is we talked about how what you need to focus on is, do I know my prospects? So anybody that's a warm prospect or a hot lead, do I know their whys? Do I have their full picture? Do I understand what they're looking for? Do I know why they're making the moves that they are? What are the things they're hoping to gain? Do I understand their full picture? And if the answer is like, well, no, I only have bits and pieces of that, then are they really a warm prospect? No, they're not yet. So get excited about putting those pieces together, because those are things you can control. The more you understand your clients and your prospects, the more value you can follow up with, the more things you can put in front of them that are speaking their language. And I mean, Chad, why don't you share a little bit about the pipeline? I mean, you've only been active really in the field for what, a month now, a couple months?
Yeah, I mean, it's been sort of a hybrid over the last month, because I spent the first basically until tomorrow in an inside sales agent role.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, honestly, it's been maybe 4 weeks that I've been sort of doing a little bit of both.
And
But
so
yeah, in that time, I mean, it's you know, I've been able to just keep in touch with a few of the people that I'd connected with, you know, before,
yeah.
and you know, have had a chance to you know,
So Chad, when you
with
say
the
people you connected with before, can I put that in context? Those are
lead.
people in your sphere.
Uh, no, no. The first, so now I have one person in my sphere who are going to go out and look at a place. But up until that, it's been people that we've connected with through our leads that we've got,
Okay.
and yeah, have just, you know, been able to, you know, chat with them, you know, keep in touch with them, and so that when, you know, when there were some places that they were interested in going out and having a look at, you know, we've been able to do that. So I've been able to do, you know, maybe a 10 or so showings up till now, but you know, it's been great, because it's been an opportunity to just move that relationship that we started, you know, from making a phone call in the office, through to now, you know, we're actively looking for places, so that, you know, as soon as the right one comes along, we'll be able to sort of see it all the way through.
Right. So basically, Chad, in less than 60 days or 90 days, you've already been able to build up a pipeline of prospects of people that you're actively engaged with, that you're showing properties to. And you have
Yeah.
other people that are sort of, maybe kind of frozen right now because of this whole pandemic. But those are people that are going to come out of the woodwork in the not too distant future. You probably have like half a dozen of those at least,
Oh,
would you say?
definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like I'm definitely finding there's a lot more people who are saying, yeah, you know what, right now I'm not ready to actively look, but once, this COVID is sort of under control and things start being lifted, let's go find something. And so I found that, by just keeping in touch with them, and as we see new properties, whether it's on the hot sheet or just, regular search, for stuff that fits their criteria as it comes up, keeping in touch with them, showing them that I'm working for them, and sending them out properties just to be proactive, and again, just make sure that they've seen stuff that kind of fits from, what they're telling me they want to see. I feel like, yeah, as soon as things start getting a little bit more back to normal, there's a number of people who are going to be ready to get out and start, actively looking.
Yeah. And the one thing too that I keep stressing with Chad and a lot of our students is you have to only focus on what you can control. You can't control the market factors right now. You can't control this virus, but what you can control is consistent daily activity. And so, Chad, share with everybody how many contacts you're planning to do on a daily basis and roughly what you've been averaging.
Yeah, so I mean, the goal has been 15 contacts per day. That's definitely, it's a good goal. It's not one that I've been able to consistently get to. So I would say more realistic for what I've been able to connect with is probably more around the 10 per day.
Okay.
But 10 per day, five or so days a week. There's definitely, it's translating into, a lot of people. I mean, that doesn't mean that there's, of those, say 10 per day, those are 10 people who are going to be looking for homes. But at least having 10, conversations each day, it's giving enough of those people that are interested in looking for homes that, as we continue to keep in touch and show that I'm working for them, lots of good opportunities to come.
Yeah, for sure. And it's actually great because I mean, you've only been doing the social media strategy. You've done a couple videos and you've been kind of just starting to get that going, but you already have your first person from your sphere that's come out of the woodwork that you're actively showing properties to.
Yeah, I've been, so I'm not like too old to be into computers, but it was just honestly social media, computers in general were just never something that I was overly into. Which I decided, when I started doing this, that I was going to change that. And yeah, so I just created a business page about a week ago, and invited people, started putting together content, lots of engagement. And like you say, I've now had a relative of my wife's who's reached out and said, hey, like, are you working? I'd love for you to show us this place. So yeah, I'm definitely, I mean, it's my first win, obviously, but it's a week old page, or maybe 2 weeks. It's new, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting to see what can happen by just making sure people are aware that, like I say, I'm an option.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. If you're a secret agent that nobody knows about, don't be surprised when your business isn't flourishing. But if you're consistently putting value in content and you're doing things where you own just a small piece of mind share with people, I promise you it works. I've done it. The reason Chad's working with us today is because of my social media strategy that I started 4.5 years ago. And he was somebody that originally came to me as an acquaintance. I mean, we didn't know each other that well, right? But we just knew a little bit of each other. But you consistently seen our stuff. And when it came to selling your home, I had a piece of mind share, and I met with you and Crystal, and the rest was history, right? We helped you sell your property and buy another one. And then we've stayed in contact. And I think you've been able to see me sort of allow my entrepreneurial spirit to kind of shine. And I'm able to leave the security of the banking world and be an entrepreneur, which isn't always an easy thing, right? Like we called it the golden handcuffs, right?
Yeah.
You had it pretty good at the bank, and it's nice to get that salary. But the problem is you had you had a glass ceiling, right? There's not much further that you could go without having to move to Toronto or another major market. Like you were pretty limited on what your upside could be. And the
Yeah.
nice thing is now is this business, you can make as much or as little as you are willing to put into it. And there's nobody to stop you from doing that. And I think that's something that you're going to really learn to appreciate in time. And again, I can appreciate that the the COVID thing hasn't helped. However, despite that, you've got a pipeline, and I'm convinced that in the next 6 months, if people check back in, you'll have several deals under contract and you'll have a ton of momentum because you're doing all the right things that I did and that anybody else that I've coached. If they can consistently do these things that you're doing right now, you'll absolutely blow it up. And there's no doubt about it. If we were in a normal market right now, Chad, you'd be like slam busy every single day of the week. And that's the
Yeah.
exciting part. And you're just getting in again at the worst time that we've seen in like history since the Great Depression. But it's definitely I'm very optimistic that things are going to turn around in that sense. So basically today I just wanted to bring a new agent on who's like brand new but has other life experience and just talk about what he's doing right now and where his mindset is. Chad, I mean, do you go through some days where you have to battle your between the years?
For sure. I mean, it's I know, I've had days, even after my first, like when I first joined, 3 months ago, that I've questioned, like, did I make the wrong decision? Should I just go back to the bank and just, accept that, maybe that's the safe choice for me. And it's not for me personally. It's just, it's not fulfilling. So, honestly, what's helped me to not feel like this is too big or too scary or whatever is to just keep focused on what I can do and keep it in small time frames. So I don't look out a month from now, 2 months from now. It's all, what can I be doing today? What can I be doing this week? Next week. But that's definitely been helpful for me to not let it get scary or as scary by just focusing on what can I actually do? I can pick up the phone, I can make a Facebook post, I can reach out to people. Like, those are the things that I know I can do. And as long as I'm doing something, I feel like I'm moving towards the goal of being where, I'm making this a steady living.
Yeah. And Chad, again, it's short-term pain, long-term gain. And I've seen it, and I've been able to transform my life and several other people's lives through this business. So I know that will be the same with you, but you're being tested. The universe is testing you early. And that's, again, what's going to make you stronger. So, and I know other people probably going through the same thing where, you question, like, do I have what it takes? And you get caught in your own head. The reality is, of course you do have what it takes. You've got the skills, you've got the communication skills, the experience, like, you're going to do exceptionally well if you can just not lose to that drunken monkey in your head that's constantly sabotaging you and saying, Chad, go back to the bank, Chad, And so I can appreciate, man, it's not easy to leave that security. And in the short term, I'm sure it's not where you want to be financially, but I can assure you the things that you're doing will pay off. And anybody else listening, it's just about that consistency. We've got people right now that are, believe it or not, they're actually growing in different market areas. They're actually growing market share and having some incredible months right now during all this volatility because they're choosing to be very action focused and they're just making adjustments. So there's a question for you, Chad. So what social media things have you done so far? So for anybody that's curious about what you're doing to kind of put yourself in front of your audience.
Yeah, so for sure. I'll say I've collaborated and borrowed from others. So both from Jason, from Kevin, Georgia. And so basically the big thing. So right now I'm doing something I've talked to Kevin about is we're doing it's basically a 4-part series on things that are just ways to stay sane while in isolation. So the first one, I made a pie. Today I had my barber come on and we just talked about the do's and don'ts for home haircuts. So things that are not real estate related. And so I'm going to do another one or another 2 that are, like I say, just non-real estate things. And then as well, and then at the same time, I'm doing things that are real estate related. So one of the focuses that I'm taking is on the first-time home buyer. So I did a video that just talks about the different programs and incentives that are available for the first-time home buyer. And then I did a Facebook Live Q&A so that I could go into a little bit more detail and explain sort of the programs, this is how they work. And then have people being able to just ask, further questions or whatnot if they wanted to. So, that's sort of the strategy that I'm keeping is, have both posts that are specific to real estate, but also aren't. And the reason for me wanting to do that is just so that I can keep people engaged. And I want, obviously to have lots of content for people to come back to my page for, and not feel like, okay, well, if I'm not looking to buy or sell a house right now, I don't really want to go to your page because there's nothing of interest to me. So just keeping it fun, keeping it light, and keeping it consistent are what I've been doing.
Nice. One tip I'll give you, Chad, as well, and anybody listening, here's a good tip for you. That list that you created, all those people, your acquaintances, your sphere, people that you've talked to, that you've start creating a list, and then every week put something of value in front of them, whether it's one of your videos, whether it's one of your, just kind of your thought of what's going on in the market, something of value, but every week email them something or provide them something of value so that you're keeping top of mind with them. And
Yeah.
anybody listening right now, Sibo, I know you're listening right now, and I know this is something that you do consistently every week, and he gets a tremendous amount of repeat and referral business by doing this to his list. And so everybody has a list, whether it's 50 people, 100 people, 500, 1,000. Create your list now and just keep adding to it and keep putting value in front of people. And it's very easy. You can use programs like MailChimp, and there's different email providers that you can do that for free, and they'll do that. So that would be one tip for you, Chad, is start taking this content, not only put it on social media, but you can start emailing it out to your list, grow that. Even people that you've just had a conversation with, add them to the list. Another question for you. Are you posting this on your business page or your personal page?
So I've been posting it on my business page. Yeah, like it's and the first few things that I posted, I can't remember what they were, but I was putting them on my personal page, and I'm not necessarily not doing that. Um, but I wanted to obviously grow my business page, and I was, what I'm just sort of, have in my mind is that I don't want people who aren't necessarily interested in following my business page or whatnot to feel like they're being bombarded with my business type stuff. So obviously I've invited everybody who's in my personal page to like and join my business page, but I'm focused on my business page specifically.
Yeah. And guys, if you have a variety of content that you're putting out there, where you got some business, some funny stuff, some, more lighthearted stuff, just have a nice mix. I've never subscribed to it has to be on your business or this page or that page. Obviously, it's important to have a focus area that you can really drive your audience, but I wouldn't get too hung up on whether it's your business or your personal page, because what that's going to do is it's going to keep you in paralysis. So just keep your content where you could have it on your personal and your business page, and it kind of blends nicely. It would be my piece of advice for anybody. Anybody else with questions? I mean, I'm here to answer some questions. Chad doesn't have years of experience in real estate yet, but he's got tons of experience in banking. We're certainly, again, here to provide any value for people that have any questions. And I'm certainly here to help. And I've got some good things that I can share too. But anybody curious what I think the market's going to do? I'll tell you. My thoughts is we're going to see a U-shaped recovery. So, we're going to see a slower recovery out of the gate than you might expect. I think we might see some activity later in the summertime, but I don't think that things are just automatically going to go back together once they stop the shutdown. I think we are going to have to kind of adapt for the next 12 months. I think we'll have a vaccine probably by the end of the year, early next year. And I think once people start seeing certainty there, I'm thinking the second half of 2021 is where we're going to really start seeing activity pick up again. But I think it's going to be volatile for the next year and a half. I think we're going to see some volatility. But during that volatility, though, is an opportunity, guys, for anybody that has a 5-year or less timeline, any sellers that need to sell in the next 5 years or less, I would suggest that they move their timeline up and, maybe sell now while we're still near peak prices than waiting in 5 years, because there's just too much uncertainty out there. It would be kind of like gambling in a sense. So that would be my advice for any buyers that have a long-term prospectus. I wouldn't even worry about it. Honestly, if you have a 10-year or more timeline, interest rates are incredibly low. There's some good opportunities. I wouldn't be too hung up on it. I do think the upper end of the market is going to take it is going to take a bit of a hit. So, you're going to definitely want to price competitively where you're ranked number one in your pricing category or number two at the worst case scenario. But I think it's going to be a market where if you have strong skills, you're going to do exceptionally well. But if you're an agent that's still relying on help, giving people advice of overpricing and then seeing what happens, you're going to get slaughtered. So I think everybody needs to work on their skills right now, for sure. We're working on our real estate IQ at Sims Real Estate Group and our Sims coaching company. And I'm sharing a lot of new content, and I'm learning a lot of new skills right now myself so that I can be a better mentor and coach to everybody. But I think 2 years from now, we're going to be back to, at least a recovery on the other side of this, where people are feeling more certain and it'll be robust. I don't necessarily think prices are going to go up in the next couple of years, but I do think we'll start seeing good activity. So there's my thoughts. Where are the opportunities right now in the marketplace? Well, I'll share my thoughts. I actually think that your first time home buyers are going to be an incredible opportunity right now. And I think your downsizers, your people that have 5 years or less are going to be an incredible opportunity on the list side. They need to understand what's at stake. If you were a financial advisor, Chad, at the bank, and I was one of your clients and I told you, look, I'm planning on retiring in the next 2 to 3 years. Would you be aggressive with my portfolio, or would you probably be trying to preserve my cash?
Yeah. So obviously we'd shift into a more conservative approach at that point.
And I think it should be the same thing. If a big part of your retirement plan is the equity in your home, I think you should consider maybe moving your timeline up, selling now while we're still at a peak market, and then, going and renting for a while, or just buying what you need and not worrying about it. But I would look to maybe moves a little bit earlier in some cases. So I do think that the first time home buyers are going to be an opportunity. I think downsizers are going to be good. I think the mid to the low end of the market is going to continue to perform very well. I think that's going to be the area that's going to continue to see recovery. I was looking at the sales in Nanaimo today, for example. Out of the 29 sales in April so far this month, 22 of those were 500,000 and under, 550 and under, which is kind of just below our medium market price. And I think that's what's going to continue to lead the recovery. So Luke Xander wants to know, what is your business page called? I would love to follow it.
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. It's Chad Sims Real Estate Group, powered by EXP Realty. I'll send you an invite. I'll look for your name there.
Okay.
And thank you.
Joe Langdon asks, should I sell now? Chad, what are your thoughts? What do you think I would tell people?
Well, I mean, I think that what we've talked about is that it kind of depends on where you're at and sort of what your time frame looks like. But yeah, if there's a need for you to sell, because you've got whatever the reason is, and your time frame is within the next couple 3-5 years, then yeah, I mean, we should get on it, because obviously what's going to happen, keeping in mind we have no crystal ball, but what it's fairly safe to say is that prices are going to continue to go down. So if you can capitalize on where prices are today and not wait to where prices are even lower, if there's a need there, it definitely makes sense to start working on that now instead of when prices have fallen even more.
Yep. No, I agree. We've got a couple other good questions here. So do you think all cash offers are the best? What do you think about financing clauses, home inspections, etc.? Well, Jackie, great question. So number one, I would be talking to your sellers about the value of doing a pre-inspection prior to hitting the market. I think there's way too much at stake right now, where if something goes sideways in an inspection report, that's going to be an easy way for buyers to find an out. When buyers feel like there's uncertainty, they become flakier. So really make sure that you've got your clients prepared to hit the market. I would do pre-inspections so that way you can take a scary document and turn it into a marketing tool. So pre-inspections are going to be a big thing. So I'd recommend that. Obviously, an all cash offer is always going to be better if you can than something with a financing clause. More than ever, you're going to want to push the envelope on, hey, can you provide a pre-approval letter? Like, I'd like to see something tangibly in writing. What type of work does the person do? Like, really get to know your buyer, what type of work they're doing, because you can start putting the pieces together. If you have a healthcare worker, well, their job stability is going to be a lot higher than if you have somebody that's working in the restaurant industry, or maybe they're self-employed. So I'd ask those questions up front. Big deposits, guys. I would definitely go for much bigger deposits than you're used to right now to kind of secure deals. And I think that would be really important. Estrella asked Chad, she says, what would be a good value proposition right now, especially as a newer agent? How would you answer that? And then I'll share what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been focusing mainly on sort of the, my background being, I have the financial background, as well as being part of such a high performing team has been, because I have had that question where, I've been asked, I had some buyers that, they're looking to spend a good amount of money, and they said, like, how long have you been in real estate? I said, well, honestly, not that long, but, being part of a team like Sims, where we have both, a large number of people, and along with, proven, results. When I explain that, and then explain about, the background that I have being in banking, where, I'm pretty strong on the finance end of things, they were definitely comfortable knowing that, I have that support. And so, that's really how I've approached it when I've been asked.
Yeah, I think the key thing that you can talk about, Chad, is the fact that, hey, look, I've been on the other side of the transaction hundreds of times. I understand real estate. I've not only have I transacted it many times, I've been on the financing side of it. So I really understand how it works well with an agent. So I have a lot of strength there. Talk about your life experiences. Talk about, the fact that, you really understand how to look at a home and do proper due diligence, and how you can help them identify some potential pitfalls and problems. Talk about the power of your network of people that you work with. So you've got, Chad, you've got a team. Not everybody has that. So if you're an individual agent, start building your mastermind group of people that you can go to and use that as a strength. At the end of the day, you don't need to possess all knowledge. You just need to know really smart people in different areas of the business. Figure out what your one thing is, Jackie. So, Estrella, what's your one thing that you do exceptionally well? What types of experiences do you have that set you up for success in real estate? Again, you don't have to sit there and be like, well, I haven't sold that many homes in my life. You could say, look, I've done a lot. I've advised a lot of clients in different areas of business in my life. And here's what I've learned. And here's the things that I'm here to do to help you guys. I've got the energy, the enthusiasm to really put behind this. I'm going to really work really hard, and I'm very well connected to make sure that I'm giving you guys world-class value and service. Always speak from a place of confidence, and just surround yourself with the right people, and be hungry to learn every single day. Like, if this is a new craft for you, you should be learning something new every single day. Even if you've been in the business 25 years, you should be looking for new things to learn every single day. I've been really focused on raising my real estate IQ by 100% by investing time in learning and talking to people that are strong in areas that, maybe I'm not. And so do the same thing, do that sort of evaluation of your own skill set. Jackie, I'm not sure what you mean by a Form 244. So keep in mind that we're practicing real estate in British Columbia. So it may be different than your market area. I know the way we do real estate in Canada is different than the United States. So that could be, what about Form 244, seller's direction? What do you mean by that? Sellers to hold. Oh, okay. So like when it comes to delaying offers. So one of the things that, as a listing agent, guys, and this is a different skill set, but you really need to make sure that you're proactive about things. You need to anticipate things. So if you're pricing a property and you know it's very sharply priced, you're the hottest property in your price category, and you don't have a lot of competition, you need to prepare your sellers for how you're going to handle showings. Are you going to review offers on a certain day at a certain time? Or are you going to maybe delay showings for a couple days and then have all the showings happen at the same time and just allow the market to bring you offers? But you need to be very premeditated about the things that you're doing. Be a strong listing agent. I'm a huge fan of that. And more than ever right now, I would be looking to price sharper. It's not worth kind of gambling over $5,000, $10,000 or testing the market at a higher price. When there's this much volatility, make sure that you look at where you rank in the market with your listing. And if you're not ranked in the top 1 or 2 spots, you're probably overpriced. Well, who's going to dictate the market now are going to be the most motivated sellers in the marketplace. They're the ones that are going to set the new benchmarks for prices. And when the market's going up, you can get away with overpricing. But when the market starts moving the other way, you can't get away with those same mistakes. So you need a really strong agent now to give you good advice. Otherwise, you could cost the seller a lot of money. So what about form seller's directions to hold offers? That just makes it harder to do pre-inspections for buyers. Well, if you've already done the pre-inspection prior to hitting the market, you would have that report available. You can encourage people to go and do their own inspections, but if you've already got the pre-inspection done, you've already done a lot of that work up front to make it easier so people can come in with cleaner offers. So you got to have a pulse on your market. Every market's going to be different. Every price category is going to be different. So I can't give a blanket statement because every market throughout North America is very, very different. But I will say get a sense for how you're priced in the market, what the activity's been, what your average maybe days to sell a similar home to yours is, how much inventory there is. And I think that'll give you an idea whether you're in a seller's market, buyer's market, or a balanced market. And we can do a call on that another time where we can kind of share what that looks like and talk about absorption rates. Let's see here. How did your first showing go, Chad? Are there some things that have come up in your first showings that are changing the ways you show homes going forward? That's a good question.
Yeah, I would say for sure. I did have the opportunity for the first showing that I went on. I did it with Jason, so I was able to get just see how he did it, and it definitely changed what I had in my mind, because I thought, like I like HGTV, and so I watch shows like Love It or List It or things like this, and I think that that's sort of how I was planning to do it. And the nice thing I liked with Jason is that he understood how the clients like to see the home. And then, in this particular showing, they just wanted to kind of walk around, get a feel for the space. And so it was really just a matter of pointing out things. So in this case, the view, we're facing north. So, I mean, you have the view, but just be aware of this is, what you'd be facing in terms of daylight. So I definitely took what I saw Jason do to my own first showing. But yeah, I definitely, like, one of the biggest things that I've learned and obviously we'll continue to hone is just having that understanding from the buyer on how do they want to see the space, how involved do they want me to be, so I can just make that experience more customized to how they want it to be. But I'm definitely getting better at knowing like what sorts of things to look at and just make mention of. And obviously the more times that I do it, obviously I'll just keep learning.
Yep. Chad, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is they feel like the phone, this thing weighs like 10,000 pounds, and it just like seems like people have a struggle with that. So what are some of the things that you've done to kind of push yourself to make sure that you're keeping this thing going consistently?
Yeah, I mean, I have the benefit of, like, I've been doing calling for 15 years. Like it's not a new activity. So, I mean, I get that that's not necessarily going to be the case for everybody. But what I have found is, like, I mean, I have some days where I'll pick up the phone and, like, it feels like every other dial somebody answers and wants to have a conversation. And then I'll have days where I call and I call and I call, and it's just voicemail after voicemail, or people will hang up the phone, which luckily doesn't happen a lot, but it just feels like the days where I'm not having a lot of luck getting people to pick up. Those are the days where when I do get somebody to pick up, they're just like, no, hang up. You know what? So for me, it's just a matter of just, being aware of and okay with that. The vast majority of people who I'm going to be talking to or are calling are going to say no. They're not going to want to have a conversation. They're not going to want to start a search or any of that kind of stuff. And just going in with understanding that's how it is. It doesn't feel to me defeating when that's what happens, because that's my expectation. And then just knowing that, like, what happened on the last call, that doesn't, dictate what happens on the next call. So the next call could always be a good one. But you just got to pick up the phone and do it. And it's one of those things, like, I know, Jason, you use that 123 dial. And I mean, that's me. Like, I've never been one who spent a lot of time researching a lead, like, even in banking, basically just enough for what I need to know. And in this case, I mean, for me, the only thing that I want to know is where they've been looking. I don't need any other information beyond that. And it's just pick it up. Don't spend a bunch of time. Because I mean, honestly, if I had like the days where it's a lot of voicemails and I spent 3 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever researching that lead before I phoned, I mean, that would be a ton of wasted time. So just for me, where have they been looking at, and call them.
Yep, I agree. Just pick it up. Just go. The courage always comes after you do something. My mindset's a little different than Chad's. I don't go in expecting the worst. I go in expecting to just like that I'm going to connect with them on a deep level, and I just need to really come through with value early in the conversation, and then get a great open-ended question to kind of kickstart things. And that the further I can get into the conversation, the more I'll uncover with people. But it's really comes down to just coming in with lots of positive energy. That's my strategy. Whatever works for you. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's just that's how I like to approach it. All right, cool. Well, we'll start wrapping this up, guys. Thank you so much. Again, I wanted to bring a completely different type of guest today. I want to bring somebody who's like brand new that could say, look, I can relate. Like, I'm starting this business at a tough time. And if you're worried, yeah, I get it. One person, actually, Chad, one last question. She says, Jackie asked, do you use scripts?
Yeah. So one of the nice things on, the Jason's team, the Sims team, our team, is we had a lot of training. So we had a lot of, like, we spent basically the first 2 weeks going through everything from, the call scripting, how to handle objections and smoke screens and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely the overall format. It starts from a place of, thank you for, for joining our site and explaining this is what I'm here to help you with. So, I mean, I'm going to help you set up that search so that we can make sure we're setting properties, that are specific to your search criteria, and just not waste a bunch of time setting properties that, don't even fit with what you're looking for. And then from there, just asking a bunch of, open-ended questions to really understand both, what the customer or the client is looking for, and then also why are they looking for it. So one of the questions that that Jason has been sharing with us is, what is it about your current home that isn't quite working that has you exploring the idea of making a move? And it's been a great question to understand, like, what's driving this, like what's their motivation to start this search or browse or whatever they're, whatever point they're at. So yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, the scripting, I don't necessarily read it, as I'm calling, but I definitely am mindful of, like, thanking them and explaining why I'm calling, and then just asking some really good questions to get to know them and what they're wanting and their why.
Just remember this, guys, like the quality of your question will dictate the quality of the answer. If you ask a terrible question, you're going to get terrible answers. If you ask great questions, you'll get really good answers. So if you can understand that, and understand the subtleties and how you ask things. For example, the one thing that I brainwash everybody that I work with is the question, hey, what is it about your home right now that isn't quite working for you that has you exploring other options? What I like about that is it's soft. It invites you to open up because it's not too committal in the way that I've asked it. I've asked it in a way that makes you feel safe, starting to open up a little bit. And then it's exploring. Using the word exploring is a lot better than, hey, so do you want to go out and look at houses? That's a little premature in a lot of cases. So you want to kind of get the flow of conversation going early. We've got tons of really great open-ended questions. We've got lots of, Chad's learning with me that I'm all about pre-qualifying buyers and sellers and doing it in a way, well, they'll never know that you're pre-qualifying them. It's doing it in a way that's very client-centric, that builds trust, that builds rapport, but that allows us to really understand their full picture. And I do this with buyers. I do this with sellers. It's something that anybody that I work with, I really put a lot of focus and trust around that. So yes, Alicia, we'll have this recording available. We put it on our Sims Mastermind page. So if you're not part of our Sims Mastermind page, please check it out. And we'd love to have you part of it. And we're going to be adding tons of different guests and different people that we can bring onto these webinars. And if you guys have ideas of things you guys want us to focus on, please let us know. And I'm looking for some different guests that are strong in different areas like farming and mailers and things that aren't things that we've necessarily put our focus on to try and bring you guys the most value. So Chad, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you, man. Keep grinding it out. Stick to the plan, stick to what you can control. And this is going to turn around. And I can't wait for you to start breaking your real estate, you're popping your real estate cherry here.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, cool. Thanks everybody. Have an amazing day.